Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am Fable Joey, and I am here with another album review today. Here to review Mac DeMarco's Here Comes the Cowboy. Now, Mac DeMarco is another one of my favorite artists, and I was super excited to hear this album. I found out Mac about 3 years ago, I want to say, and I've been a huge fan since then. I've listened to every single one of the records that he has produced, and I have loved all of them. So honestly, I was super excited for this to come out. I think the first news that we got of this album happening was in about January when he dropped the single Nobody, which is fantastic, but we'll get to that later. I was really excited going into this. Mac has never let me down before. Even though there's albums that I like more than others, there's never a Mac album that I can look at and be like, oh, I didn't like that one. They're very consistent, and he's very consistent. He'll drop a new album about every year or so, or maybe every 2 years, but the fact that they're all good and they're coming out at that rate, like, he's definitely one of the most consistent artists. I can look at all these artists. I can look at Vampire Weekend, which is an album that I reviewed last on the channel, and that was like 6 years between albums, and 4 years, and 3 years before that. And that's great. I mean, you do what you need to do, but the fact that Mac is very consistent at putting out albums and the fact that they're good is fantastic. So obviously, I was really excited for this album, and I'm glad it turned out great. So I can't wait to talk about this, so let's get right into it. So Mac DeMarco's Here Comes the Cowboy is 13 songs, it's 46 minutes long, so it's a pretty long album. I'm not sure if it's his longest. I don't feel like it is. I feel like This Old Dog, which came out in 2017, is a bit longer, but I could be wrong on that. And it's quite a full album. Like I said, I mean, there's 13 tracks, which is, I mean, it's a lot of new music from Mac, and I love that. So I'm going to talk about my track highlights, but first of all, let's just talk about the album in general. So, if you've heard anything about this album, you might have already heard, the album is really slow. It's really slow album, and I absolutely love slow Mac songs. My two favorite Mac DeMarco albums are Another One and This Old Dog, and those are his two slowest, and they're also his most recent before this one. And a lot of the music on this album is slow. There's only about 2 songs that are like normal Mac speed for a song, and that's gonna turn away a lot of people. But for me, someone who really loves Mac's slow songs, I absolutely thoroughly enjoyed this album. I think it's fantastic, and really with these slow songs and these more dedicated, I feel like he dedicated a lot more time to the lyrics of this album. It makes me really appreciate it. And it's super cliche to say that, oh, well, with this album you can really tell that the songwriter has matured over time, but with this album you can. There's a lot of things that you see in Mac's lyrics this time around that are really touching, and you know that he's learned a lot. And I really like how this album shows that. Alright, so let's get into some tracks that I really enjoyed. One of the first ones that I loved was Finally Alone. And this song really reminds me of a different song called Let My Baby Stay by Mac DeMarco, which is one of my favorite songs off Salad Days, and maybe one of my favorite Mac DeMarco songs ever. It's got a really smooth vibe to it, and I think it's some of the best vocals throughout the album. Finally Alone is, I'm pretty sure it's like a pretty short track, maybe it's like 2:40 to 3 minutes, and I really enjoy it. I think it's one that a lot of people are gonna like, because he's not trying a ton of new stuff on the track, but the vocals are great and the instrumentation behind it is fantastic. I absolutely love Finally Alone. Another one is Preoccupied, and it's funny how well this title fits the song, because it truly feels like what it is, and I absolutely love it. It's definitely one of the slowest on the album, but like I said, slow for me is never a bad thing. So I really enjoyed Preoccupied. I think that it's got some really great guitar work in the background. I mean, it's good use of acoustic guitar. There's acoustic guitar throughout this whole album, and I think it's done really well. And it's more focused on in this album than it ever has been before, and Preoccupied shows it off very well. Now, my next favorite is probably my favorite on the album, or my second favorite, and it's K. It's easily one of my favorite love songs from Mac DeMarco. I think that this is one where you can truly see that he's matured as a songwriter. K is one of the ones that I could go back to, and it's probably the ones that I'll listen the most to throughout the years. I'll go back to this album, and that'll be like the first thing I click on. It fits perfectly. The acoustic guitar fits perfectly with the vocals, and I really love what he's doing on this track. I think it's absolutely fantastic. It's a great love song. I think that a lot of Mac fans who are fans of his slower music are really gonna love this song. And the next one is Heart to Heart. Heart to Heart is kind of the same thing with K. It's kind of a love song, The lyrics are very, very well written. Heart to Heart has my favorite lyrics on the album, without a doubt. It's absolutely fantastic. It truly makes you think about what Mac is trying to present to his audience, and I love that. Heart to Heart also has these really great synths going in between the vocals, and it works so well. There'll be a verse, and then there'll be this really cool thing that he does with the synths behind all of it, and then he'll go back into the vocals, and it's absolutely fantastic. So Heart to Heart is definitely a highlight on the track. My next favorite was Hey Cowgirl, and I don't really have a ton to say about this one. I just think it's fun. It's probably the shortest on the album, and it's a good breather. I mean, because there's a lot of slow and there's a lot of thinking and stuff, and Hey Cowgirl is kind of just a song that you can like relax to. I mean, every song on this album is, but it's just fun. I don't have a ton to say about it. It was just a lot of fun to listen to, and I think a lot of people are going to like that one. Next one is All of Our Yesterdays, which was my favorite out of the singles that he dropped before. There's something about this song, and it's so well written, and the use of electric and acoustic guitar coming together is fantastic. It's something that Mac has done before, but I don't think he's ever done it this well. All of Our Yesterdays is easily one of my favorite tracks on the album. It's got so much going. It feels like it could have fit on like any other album before it, which is something weird, but I feel like it could have been placed anywhere. It could have been placed in Mac DeMarco's 2, it could have been placed in Salad Days, maybe even This Old Dog, and I really love that about this song. I think All of Our Yesterdays is something that'll get out to more people, and it was definitely my favorite out of his singles. And then another single that he dropped was Nobody, and that's not one of my favorite tracks, but I still love it. I think it really sets the tone for the album, and I think it's fantastic. And my last track that I wanted to talk about is Baby Bye Bye, and it is the ending track of this. I think this is some of the craziest that Mac has ever gotten. It's not the loudest that he's ever gotten, but it's definitely something that we haven't heard before. The beginning, it's a 7-minute song, so it's a big song, but the very beginning is something that we've heard from Mac. It's just like a normal, kind of chill Mac song, and then you get to this point where it's kind of just maracas, like going slowly in the background, and you're like, what's happening right now? And the change, it totally changes the song. The chorus from there on out is wild, and it sticks with this one thing for about 2 minutes, and then it goes to sounds of a busy subway station for about 45 seconds, and you're so weirded out, and you're wondering if like that's the end of the song, but then you check, and it's got like 3 more minutes, and then the last 3 minutes are just insane. It's just Mac like kind of screaming into the microphone, and I love it. It's totally crazy, and it's definitely a highlight for me. Now, there's something about Here Comes the Cowboy that really hit me hard. I think it's because I love Mac's slow music, and this is truly a love letter to Mac's slow music lover fans. You know what I mean? I feel really great about this album. Of course, there's a couple tracks that kind of hit me the wrong way, but I really enjoy most of the stuff that he gave us on this album. In fact, something funny that I wanted to mention was his song Here Comes the Cowboy, which is the title track. The album is called Here Comes the Cowboy. That song, it was so funny. It was a perfect little troll to start off the album. It's just Mac saying, "Here comes the cowboy" for 3 minutes. And you keep listening because you think, oh, maybe he's going to change it up. Nope. It's just him saying that for 3 minutes. And I thought that was hilarious. And it's got some cool stuff in the background. It definitely sets the tone for an awesome album. And I think it ends really well with Baby Bye Bye. So there's a lot going on this album. There's a lot that I love. There's hardly anything that I dislike. I think there's a couple songs that I could have done without, but I think that they definitely fit in the album. So guys, in the end, I really love Here Comes the Cowboy. I think it's got a perfect mix of acoustic and electric guitars, which is something that we've heard from Mac, but it's never been done this well before. I absolutely love the things that he did with this album. I love how slow it is. I love how it's really just a thought-provoking album. You have to think a lot after finishing it. And yeah, a lot of the songs are slow. It's going to turn off a lot of people. And I absolutely loved it. I think that everything he's doing here is fantastic. I think that the tone that he decided to take this album in was great. And I couldn't have asked for anything better. I'm going to give Mac DeMarco's Here Comes the Cowboy an A-. It's a fantastic album, and I'm so happy that we were able to get it. And I'm so happy that we can be listening to Mac. And yeah, that's about all I have to say. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time.